I am at the midway point on my French drain. I stopped working on it not only because of the rain, but also because the backhoe for the Kubota was a little bit difficult to utilize on the trenches. And I got an excavator, so today will be the first day that I'm actually doing some work on the property where I was putting in the propane line and the French drain, and I'm going to final grade the spot where the propane tank is going to be so that I can move it and have them come in and hook it up. So I'm also going to use the Spectra laser level that I have with a receiver that goes on the stick of my excavator so that I can make sure it's nice and flat. So that's going to be a learning experience for me too. I've only used the Spectra once before when I was doing the leveling behind me, but today I'm actually going to utilize it to make a small flat pad for my propane tank. And later on I'll be using and showing you guys how to use the Spectra LL3300, I think it is, and use it on the single slope mode, where I will be coming from up there by the corner of the house to about right here and then go that way. So that'll keep my stick and bucket at a consistent depth so that I don't actually go deeper than I need to for the water line and the French drain. So today on Fabricating Firewood, I'm going to use my excavator for the first time. I'll tell you what, I really like this Action 4 camera by DJI. And the reason is because I can't see anything from this far away to this close because it's my readers. I need my readers. I'm a 1.75. And the good thing about this camera is it talks to you. So for some reason, if it puts in photo or video mode, you just hit the button, it'll say photo, video. That way I don't have to get my readers on to look at it. So another benefit for us old people. This is a Spectra LL300N-1 self-leveling with single slope mode. And I've had it for about, I want to say just over 2 years, under 2 years. And I used it over there to make sure I had the grade correct when they were bringing in dirt. And now I'm going to use it to get a correct flat surface for the pad for the actual propane tank. This is really the first time I've actually used it for something like this. And I've got a receiver on the dipper arm of the excavator. And then later on, I will use it to get the correct single slope for my French drain. So I'm going to set it up. Now with this pad being so small, I could probably do it by hand with a rake. But again, I'm going to test out this receiver that I got for the dipper arm so that when I do go do the French drain, it actually makes more sense. Like I said, I'm a novice at this. But currently, what I have to do is set the laser up in a spot that it can see the receiver, and then I will pull up with the dipper arm and put the bucket fully extended, the dipper arm completely vertical, plumb, and then I will come down to the spot that I actually want the grade to be, and then adjust the laser receiver up and down until I get 0, and then every time I measure it again, that will tell me if I'm above or below grade. And it's actually pretty cool. It's got really bright lights and really loud beeps. So I'm gonna go get the excavator now. So another benefit of this Action 4 camera by DJI is this little magnetic clip. It's got these 2 little levers here that allow you to push it in and it just pops off. It also allows you to put the camera on in the correct direction, because if you go to put the camera on and it's the magnetic field is not lined up, it doesn't want to go on. If you turn it around, it snaps in and then you clip it in. Makes it really nice to change the camera from like the bipod or the tripod to an actual suction cup, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just gonna see, it doesn't want to go on, so it tells me that I need to flip it around and clip it in, and just like that, it's in. So where do I want to put this? Let's see here. Okay, so here's the issue. I've got Kubota telematics on this excavator, And you would think that they would have something set up like OnStar has, where you can basically communicate directly 24 hours a day when you have to use your piece of equipment outside of business hours. So it would not start. Kubota app was sending the signal to uninhibit the starter so that I could run this thing and do the actual propane pad. But for the past 45 minutes, I've been just sitting here trying to figure it out. Now, Edwards Equipment, spot on. They actually took my call, stayed after their 5 p.m. closing times, and she actually called the main people who also closed at 5 and kept them over probably 5-10 minutes, where you could tell he was wanting to get out of there because he was, I don't know, he says their policy not to do anything over the phone and only do it through correspondence and email. And I understand the security of not getting your tractor stolen or your excavator or your piece of equipment stolen because somebody can call in and give them false information. However, there needs to be a way that if the app is not communicating, right, and it's just sitting there spinning and thinking and not doing its job, letting me start my $84,000 excavator so I can do some work, you'd think that they would have a way to force the issue or call in and say, hey, here's my PIN number, here's my verification, here's me, here's my photo, my birth certificate, whatever, that allows you to confirm your identity so that you can start the vehicle like OnStar would. You know, if you're going to pay this amount of money for a piece of equipment and go the extra mile and pay the extra money for the telematics, which allows you to prevent your thing from getting stolen, it should also be on the plus side, having you the ability to call in and speak with somebody to say, hey, your stuff's not working, fix it. So now I'm getting ready to pull over and start doing the pad and getting that laser on point. So I actually went in and got my other phone, my work phone, to shoot a small video of me opening the telematics and trying to get the thing started so that we could forward that video directly to the people that are going to look in it and create a case number. And in doing so, after shooting that video, I went ahead and tried to start it again. Boom, it started. So it's definitely an issue with the communication between the app and Kubota Now, or Kubota Now and my tractor. Either way, there's an issue that needs to be resolved with Kubota not allowing me to start my excavator. Okay. Now, as far as this excavator goes, I have had 0 issues with this thing. I mean, this thing is on point. I love this thing. I thought that the L4060 tractor was probably the best thing I ever bought, because I literally, I'm not even joking, I use that thing, if not every day, every other day, no matter what, I use it. This is probably going to be a close second in how much I use it, especially when I'm doing the firewood. Let me pop this bad boy in rabbit mode. I know that when you have this fully extended, here, let me try this. So take the bucket fully extended, lower it. A tilt bucket would be nice right now because I'm actually on a, you know what? Since I'm tilted, I'm probably gonna have to come in from the south this way, because it's going to be it's going to be tilted there too, crud. I'm just going to have to play it by ear. So that's, the boom is fully extended, the bucket's fully extended, and the dipper arm is now level. So I'm going to pull forward and get right in the middle of where I'm going to be excavating, because the further out your dipper stick goes, the more you have to control the boom to get it to come in. I just want to basically sweep it back and forth and have that lesser degree. So I can put it down and then bring it in. So I just want to be in the middle, have the dipper arm plumb, bring it down, and I'll stick it in the mud where I think it should be. It'll penetrate easily. Okay. So about right there is where it needs to be. Let me move that straight again. As far as this turning with the foot pedal, the left and right of the boom, it'd be nice if there was a line like on the actual dozer blade, so that I could see if it was straight or not, versus just kind of visually getting it lined up. Bucket's fully extended, down in the mud to where I think I want to be. And now I'm going to get out, I'm going to take the camera with me, and I'm going to set that receiver up so that the laser hits it. So the right side's slightly lower than the left side, probably about 2 or 3 inches. So the laser's on. I'm also going to make something that magnetically mounts. I've already got the magnets, I just have to put it on a bar that actually comes out far enough so that I can adjust this up and down without having to worry about this stuff in the way or hitting it. Right now, that is where it needs to be, which is kind of in the way of everything. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to work today. Maybe. Yeah, that'll work for just a minimal amount of digging that I have to do. Right on the edge. There we go. So it's a little wobbly there, but that should work. Okay, I've got the dozer blade down, I'm nice and secure. And now, what I need to do is lift up, go forward, and I'm only skimming this. And see how it basically twisted? Yeah, so the receiver twisted. Through a little bit of inertia. Actually, the weight of it fell forward because it's just barely on the thing. So let me put it back where it was. This is a pain in the ass. I don't know why they don't include something larger to hook that magnet to. Let me get back down to final grade. And this thing's precise. That's close enough. I'm going to try and... this just is not working. And I can't stick it on this because it's... Oh, I guess now I can't see the damn thing. I need to make a plate. That's just it. So I am going to call this video a failure because I can't get this receiver stuck on there exactly where it needs to be without the magnet and the stick coming out not in plumb and it wanting to fall over because it's just mounted on the edge of the beam there. So I'm going to go and make me an actual plate to mount that to, and then I'll worry about painting later because I've already got the magnets, I've got the steel, so I'm going to do that. Here's the whole reason for fabricating firewood, because I have to make stuff to get stuff done. So I'm going to turn off the laser. I should be able to get this done in about 10-15 minutes. I'm going to take the receiver back over there with me. Now just stick it right there. It sticks pretty well, it has to have a flat surface. And then I'm going to drive back over there. Fun. Because this thing is really slow. Now, as far as driving in a straight line with these tracks, it leaves an impression, but it doesn't tear anything up, and it's not so bad that it would be noticeable under a zero-turn lawnmower. Need to put the dipper arm out in plumb, so that's a 90 degree. Okay, about as 90 as I'm going to get. Bring the dipper arm plumb-ish. There we go. So that's going to be my spot. What's annoying is when a company releases a product and you're the beta tester. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure how long telematics has been out, but I'm pretty sure I'm still a beta tester because it's buggy and it's not working as it's supposed to. Now you can see where it kind of turned a little bit, it messed it up, but I can use the grading scraper to clean that up. All this, where the dirt is, it used to flood, especially right in here and over there by the IBC cages full of firewood, and water in the wintertime would run across, would pool there and then eventually run across the driveway. And when it ran across the driveway, it would freeze and then thaw and freeze and thaw, and there'd be like 6 inches of ice, and then it would thaw, and then the ice underneath against the ground would melt. And then as you're driving over it with my wife's car, as the ice would melt, her tire would punch through the ice because it would melt underneath instead of the top. So it melts from the bottom up. Okay, I need a tape measure. You think of all the tape measures I have, one would be in here, but it's not. So back to the old. Spend more time getting things than doing things. I might have already previously mentioned this, but anytime I go to my favorite metal shop, Warren or Still, I always go to the drop section and just get random things that I know I could possibly use, because there's always a general size and thickness of metal that you're going to use constantly. And in this case, looks like 12 gauge sheet steel, and that's going to be a little flimsy, but for these 80-pound magnets times 2, it's actually going to be able to hold it way better than if it were a 1/4 inch steel. So we shall see. I need to measure a maximum length of where it would be. So I want to stay on this. I don't want to go up here because it's about a 1/4 inch away. So, well, actually, I can go a little higher, because if I put the magnet here, the bar can go a little higher. Last thing you want to do is make this out of stainless or aluminum and have it not stick. So if the magnet's about right there, a little floppity do, but might work for today. Might need to get some 10 gauge steel. So go to the lowest to the highest. And the problem is going to be these hydraulic lines are in the way, and my magnet extension is not that long, so I'm not going to be able to just basically hook it directly to it, because the actual bar, can't run it behind this. Let's see. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. So I'm gonna have to make something that comes out, which is going to require a little bit more fabrication. Let me see how well this magnet sticks to some 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch tubing that's not too heavy. Check that, I changed my mind. I found some 1x1. Forgot about this. This is what I was going to use, and still I am going to use for my firewood bundler, but I haven't had time to make it, obviously, so I've got all the steel in there, and I can always go back and get more for this, but right now this is going to be perfect length, so that's not going to interfere. That's not going to interfere. The only problem is I have to get this extended, so what I'm going to have to do is cut what appears to be, just to keep it with an appropriate standoff. So that's 2 5/8, so let's just say 3-inch standoff. So a 3-inch piece of this with an end cap threaded for 3/8/16, 3-inch minus that is 1/2 inch, so 2.5 inch standoff. So if this is right there, yeah, so 2.5 inches would be an appropriate standoff. So I'm gonna have to cut 2.5 inch pieces off another piece of this to weld it directly to here in strategic spots so that I can snap it on and still have the play to go up and down. And as you can see, well, that sticks right well. So let's go do that. This is not going to be used. Okay, so typically I would do the welding in my container with my welding table, which used to be in here, but I have since moved that out to the container, with the drill press, and my welder's still in here, my MIG and my TIG welder, because I don't have power to that container yet. I have the appropriate length power cable coming from my commercial generator, which is what I'm going to use to power the container. However, I do not have my electrical box hooked to the container, nor do I have the inside where I can plug my welder in. So kind of a half and half mixture here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these pieces. So it's 2.5 inches minus 1/4 inch for the 1/4 inch steel that I'm going to put on an end cap. So 2 1/4 inch ends, welded 90 degrees to both sides, and then weld a 1/4 inch piece of steel 1 by 1 to that's going to have a center hole threaded for 3/8/16 so that I can mount the magnets to. So for now, I need to cut two. I'm just going to go ahead and do 2.5 and make it stand out a little bit longer. So two 2.5 inch pieces of this 1 by 1. And this is the problem with fabricating on the fly, is you don't have everything set up exactly the way it needs to be. And that's why you spend more time getting things than you do doing things. Eventually, this rickety old bandsaw is also going to be out there, or I'm going to get a bigger one. It'd be nice to have a Bridgeport where I can face this off to exact, but it is what it is. Now I've got to find a suitable piece of scrap. 1/4 inch, preferably 1 inch by 1 inch. I don't want anything any thinner because the threads need to be seated pretty well. You don't want to have just a thin piece of sheet steel where you can't put a thread in it. That's what I got. 1 1/4, so that'll have to do. Good enough for government work. I had to stack a bunch of stuff in here just to make room for the Easton maid to store it inside. Way back in the way back machine, I used to have all these tap and drill sizes memorized. I want to make sure that that is a 3/8/16 before I go all crazy. Being as though these magnets are from Chingchong, China, I need to verify the thread size. Yes, it is 3/8/16. So now I need to, and you guys don't really need to see this because it's just me drilling holes. I need to take these two pieces of 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 after I grind them down, deburr them. All right, so I'm going to go center drill these and tap them on the vise out there. Sweating. You don't really need to see that. It's kind of obvious how to do that. I learned a lesson long ago when it comes to knives in my hands. Decades ago when I was a kid. I always end up cutting myself. And in hindsight, I always thought, man, I should have stopped, because I always thought in my head, man, I'm going to cut myself. And I typically did. So I've got like stitches and scars and cuts all over my hand when I was when I was a kid. And I've applied that rule, and it's pretty universal to many things, that if I think something is going to happen, stop, reevaluate, and do it. And that definitely applies to taps. So when you're tapping a piece of metal and you think to yourself, man, I'm going to break this, stop, evaluate, back it out if you can, lubricate, and go slow, little tenths of a turn back and forth, because I used an undersized drill for this 3/8/16 tap, because that's the only one I could find. I couldn't find a 312, but I could find a 309. That's just enough to cause it to break. So I went really slow and got through it with no issues. Now I got to sand this down, or flatten out the threads, and then take it back out there and start, or I got welded in here actually. And if you apply that lesson that I just described to this, I thought in my head, this thing's going to fall off because I don't have a good enough grip. Should have gotten these in the first place. Stop. And now I'm just going to test fit the magnet threads. Just make sure I didn't screw up somewhere, because that would not be the first time. Yes. So that one goes on nicely. All right, I'm in business. Now I have to weld everything together on my sanding table. Stick it in my pocket. It's not like this is an aerospace part, but you want to get it as clean as possible, because I expect to be using this quite often. Now I need to go mark exactly where to weld these standoff posts so that's not interfering with anything. Should have done that when I was out there. Cannot wait to get my whole shop set up out there, because welding in here has been quite the pain in the butt. Well, I think I rubbed off my soapstone mark, so I'm gonna go mark it again, dummy. Now for these, I need my clamps, because I don't want to wing it. I want to hold it on there tightly. Another trip. Here's the perfection in me. It doesn't matter. It's just a damn bolt going through a hole, but I can't live with that. I gotta make it perfect. Since I am welding 1/4 inch to what appears to be less than an 1/8 inch thick steel, you want to lean the weld more towards the 1/4 inch. And what I'm doing here is making it to where the welding lead that's sticking out the wire is rather short, so I can get closer. Leaning the weld more towards the 1/4 inch will prevent you from burning through. But as you get closer to the previous weld, it's hotter, so it's an easier chance to burning through. That weld looks like garbage, but again, it's just a grating rod pipe, and voila. So now I'm gonna cool this off with some water, screw the magnet in it, and see if I still have time to do some grading for the propane tank. Another thing I do is I always turn the gas off and run it until I hear it run out, burn the end off, and then shut it down. That way everything's ready for the next go around, and I don't have to worry about anything being under physical pressure from the gas being in the system. It's basically exhausted out, so it's not under pressure anymore. And I unplug everything. I'm a firm believer in setting everything up ready for the next use, except for chainsaws. You don't want to use a chainsaw, get it all hot, and then do sharpening and bar adjustment on it when it's still hot, because when you get done with that, you sit it down, and then everything cools and shrinks back down, and now you have an extremely tight chain on a bar. So what I do is I will run my chainsaws. The next day I will come in, and then I will sharpen them and prep them for the next time, or after they've cooled down a couple hours later if I have time. Okay, I just cooled it off, and I'm not too worried about rust or anything right now, because this is going to eventually be sandblasted, ground down, sandblasted, and powder coated. So right now I just want to get it done so I can use it. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using it its intended way, I'm going to turn it around, put the nut on first. I don't need the flat washer, but I do need the lock washer. Put the lock washer on next, and then screw it in. So what I did is I counterclockwise it until I felt the thread catch. And now I will half, one, half, two. That gives me enough threads. And then I will hold the magnet while I tighten this down so that they are equidistant, and so that this new mount is parallel to the left side of the dipper stick. Okay. So I go backwards, boom, and it just dropped. So that's the initial start of the thread. So aught, one, aught, two. So tightening the nut against the lock washer against this plate actually will hold it in place. Okay, there we go. Bam. Look at that. So now I just need to make sure that it is plumb in line, which it appears to be with that. And wham, look at that. So let's try right there. Touch and then up a little bit. All right. So once the laser starts, I have to put this, actually that is not level. So I need to come forward. Bring that back so it's perpendicular. Take it back down. Turn the receiver on, let it calibrate, and down, up, Yahtzee. Now I can turn the sound off, but I want you guys to be able to hear it, hopefully. All right, here goes nothing. The other more expensive models have a feature that allows the tilt, the actual tilt of the dipper stick. It allows the it calculates basically where the dipper stick is at the correct angle, or at the incorrect angle, and then it calculates the correct depth, which is pretty cool. But that was literally like $1,700. So I'm going to start small here. So as I get past 90, I have to bring the stick, or the left joystick, back, and that fence is garbage anyway. So as I bring the left joystick back, which straightens up the dipper, after I get past 90, I have to raise the actual or after I get past 90 towards me, I have to lower it so that it continues to dig. Dump this off to the side here. So the further away I get, I have to push the left joystick forward to get deeper, which is now too much. And as I curl the bucket and then bring the dipper towards me, I have to push down on the left joystick in order to get it to stay at the proper height. Tell you what, the guys that do this for a living, they can make it look easy. I can see the arrow. Yeah, I can see the arrow go up and down based on how deep I am. So I basically want to keep my dipper as vertical as possible. So right there. So I'll curl and raise it up, because I saw where the dirt was, and as I curl the bucket, then I can come towards me and pick the dirt up. It's going to take some getting used to. And I've got low RPMs because I am moving super slow. So I do not want to have to redo this. This is all going to be filled in with gravel. Right now I just want to basically get it to where it's nice and flat. So the faster beeps means I need to go up. No, I'm sorry. The faster beeps means I need to go down. The slower beeps means I need to go up. So that is just above. And I've got this thing on the most accurate setting. The problem with that dirt there, it's got a root system under it, like rat trees and stuff. It's really loose. It's going to be more loose than where I dug the trench, because I filled that in pretty good. Can't see it, but it's just like looks like tore up by moles. So get this straightened out, raise that back up, come in and move over. Get that vertical and back up a little bit, just a smidge. So last thing I want to do is tear the propane line that I just put in. Gotta watch my tail end because I've got some booty sticking out. Got some limbs above me in the way. So now I've got the bucket flat along the bottom, and it's about an inch above where it needs to be, and I'm just going to bring it to me slowly while I tilt the bucket out so that I keep it flat, and then I have to push the left joystick down in order to get it to where it's still at the same depth. I'm sure that eventually I'll get to the point where I can do this all in one movement with both hands. It's kind of like flying a helicopter. If you move one control, like the collective, and you increase power, you slow RPM down, which then slows the rotational force of the main rotor disc, which then requires less tail input, and so on and so forth. So it's basically a sort of like that, and it's a short learning curve because I don't want to have to rebury or reapply the dirt and have to do this over on loose dirt. Yep, on that one I caught the actual line, the tracer line, and just pulled it. It didn't tear or anything, it just pulled it off of the fence that I had it kind of tied to. So let me get this out of the way. Tuck that under there, just kind of wrap it around so I know it's out of the way. One thing I like about the 6-way is you can adjust the front of the blade to the incline that you're on. I'm still about an inch above grade. So what I'm going to do now, since I was just an inch above, is I'm going to come down and just pull, scrape, and lift. So I just scrape it off the top like a butter knife. Get that out of the way. Do it again, just like a broom, because it's surely strong enough to cut an inch of. That's too deep. It's surely strong enough to cut an inch of dirt by just pulling, especially loose dirt. And I could simply just bring a bunch of gravel in this thing and then just flatten it out, which would be more than sufficient. But I want to test this out and see how well it does. There we go. So that is about a ½ inch below grade, because I can see the edge of the bucket dipping down. So now I'm just scraping, watching the arrow on the receiver as it comes toward me. I want to pull the left back a little bit. As it gets to 90, I have to push in so that it continues the depth while I am watching. And I can only go about so far before it starts coming up. So what I'll do now is I'll come forward and just scrape off between the two grades, and then pick this dirt up against the actual dozer blade so I can kind of feel it touch. It's touching. Now just curl while I'm pushing it away, curl, push it away, curl, so that I get most of the dirt. Nothing I can do is back drag it. So swing, watch my boom. Just before I finished, the camera died, but you can see that's about 12 foot wide, and you can see where I cut into it and made a nice flat level area for the propane tank to be, where I'm going to put gravel down, as well as they're going to bring some heavy duty concrete stones to put under the propane tank. But you can see just how good of a job this thing does, even for a novice. I mean, that thing is flat. Look at that. Flat. It's a little bit mushy over here because of, there used to be a tree here. So that'll just be filled in with gravel, but the area that needed to be cut out the most is nice and level. So tomorrow I'm going to come out, well, if it's not raining, tomorrow I'm going to come out and use my tractor to get rid of all this dirt, and then use the grading scraper to just kind of spread it out. And then I'm going to bring in gravel, number 4 stone, and I'm going to dump it and then pack it down, and then give them a call and let them know they can come out and hook the propane tank up. I'll also do some final raking with the a shovel, and just to get this dirt out that I couldn't quite get. And then I'll also make this more of a nice radius than a cut. But man, this thing is pretty nice. Love that excavator. But that does it for this video. A little bit longer than I wanted to have it, but that's mostly because of the fact that the Spectra receiver did not want to mount to the side of the dipper stick, so I had to fabricate a mount for it with magnets, and seemed to work out pretty well. So what I'll do in the future is I will take that, grind it down, sandblast it, and then take it to powder coat. That way it's really nice. And thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and say hi to the kitty. Kitty, 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 kitty.